we have focus on financial support from pharma and biotech. Why do we not yet have a cure for myeloma? You can't kill what you don't see. Minimal residual disease. Have you all heard of minimal residual disease? Anybody who has not heard of minimal residual disease, you're going to hear about it right now. Okay. So now we are changing. Oh, back to that one. All right. Minimal residual disease is the name given to that small amount of myeloma that's left in someone when we think they are in a remission or a complete remission. So imagine you are in a boat on the ocean and you come across an iceberg. Actually, you see two of them. Now we're going to say that these icebergs just refer to your disease burden. And you're looking at that. Well, which disease burden would you want? Would you want the disease burden on the left, or would you want the disease burden on the right? Nobody knows what you want the one on the right. You ever heard the term the tip of the iceberg? Okay, well, we all know that what's on top is only part of what you see. The iceberg on the left has a lot of hidden ice underneath. But the iceberg on the right has a lot too, a lot more than you would think for how little it is shown. 60% of patients who successfully reach a complete remission have MRD. How do we know about this? And how can we find it? So we need a test that's easily available, sensitive, and inexpensive to find that little bit of myeloma that's left. If you look at this, the top part there says, well, the myeloma burden is like 10 to the 4th degree, which means you have one myeloma cell out of 10,000. Well, that sounds pretty good. It really does. 10 to the 5th is one cell out of 100,000. That's a lot better. When you get down to 6 or below, it's 1 out of 1,000,000. That's what you're striving for. That's what you want. If you are that deep, where there's 1 out of 1,000,000, if there's no MRD, there's no myeloma. And that's what we want. So we have to switch our approach to myeloma from defense to offense. We're not going to sit back and say, okay, when it springs up, we'll throw something at it. Okay, when it comes back, we'll throw something more to it. What we have to do at this point is attack it. We have to be offensive. So the Black Swan research, it's a global collaborative with precise and sensitive testing at the lowest levels to make clinical treatments. There are 4 basic work streams at the IMWG. MRD is an endpoint, as you can see, MRD tests, MRD validation. You're going to hear MRD a lot, and clinical trials. But they're all working simultaneously. We don't have to finish step 1 before we go to 2. Don't have to finish 2 before we go to 3. Everybody in different parts are working in different parts of the country, are working on these, wherever their expertise is. The process is organized and it's global. It's not just in 1 or 2 centers doing studies. International effort. So maybe MD Anderson is working on clinical trials. They're doing really great on clinical trials. So that's what they can bring to the table when the IMWG meets again. So these are the major scientific milestones that have been met globally. We know NGF, which stands for Next Generation Flow. They've come up with this test that has been proved to be the best test to find MRD. And right now it's done with a bone marrow biopsy. Sorry, but that's what they have to do. And as you move up, we're going to This is with MRD positive trials started. Okay, so if you're positive with MRD, then we can start the trials. Okay, this is where we, there's a short video here that Dr. Dury can explain it so much better than I. So let's hope you can all hear it. Can you all hear?
The Black Swan Research Initiative is the IMF signature research program. Many questions have been coming in this past year as the project has gotten up and running. And so I'd like to summarize for you, what is the latest on the Black Swan Research Initiative? Well, there is a lot to report about this really.
If we want to achieve the best results in myeloma, you have to be able to monitor the status of very low levels of residual disease.
Thank you.
And this is called minimal residual disease, or MRD. And so a key part of the Black Swan Research Initiative has been to have accurate testing to measure minimal residual disease. And with this, one can then enhance the treatment to even get rid of that minimal residual disease to reach an MRD negative status, minimal residual disease, which appears to be gone, in a stepwise pathway to try to achieve cure for patients with myeloma. And so this is really an exciting project which is focused on various different technologies and therapies to achieve cure for myeloma. During 2016, a very accurate and sensitive MRD test was developed by the Black Swan team. And this new method is called next generation flow technology. And using this flow cytometry technique, the bone marrow cells are passed through a specialized machine, flowing through the machine, and the machine is able to detect whether the bone marrow contains myeloma cells or not. And this uses an 8-color methodology. And so 8 different antibodies with 8 different colors are applied to the cells. And this is a major part of why the test is sensitive and accurate. And so in October of this year, the next generation flow method was launched. It had been fully developed and standardized, and over 120 researchers from all over the world came to Salamanca in Spain to learn the details of this new MRD testing approach. And it was very, very exciting as the investigators learned about the details on how to standardize and set up the procedure in their own labs when they get back home. The method includes both the flow cytometry part, but also a new sophisticated software program whereby a computer analysis gives a printout and tells whether the testing is negative, MRD negative, or whether there are some myeloma cells left, MRD positive, and will even identify the number of cells, let's say 1 in a million or 10 in a million, the number of cells which are left. And so now I'm very pleased to report that there are labs who are getting set up and will be ready to roll, certainly in 2017, to run this test. In the US, there are around about a dozen labs, and among those labs, there are 3 which we characterize as reference labs. This means that they can receive samples from other centers around the country. Those reference labs are going to be at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, at Roswell Park in Buffalo, New York, and the third one will be a swab lab with Dr. Usmani in Charlotte. So those are 3 labs where samples can be sent. In addition, local centers in New York and all across the country will be able to process samples locally, but for reference and for protocols, the central labs will be utilized. Just to be aware, for those outside the US, we also have labs in Europe, in Latin America, and all throughout Asia. We actually have centers, about 60 right now, in 26 different countries to do this different testing. So great success in setting up this MRD testing, and what we call this collection of labs is the MRD Consortium. And so it was really the MRD Consortium that was launched in Salamanca in October. Immediately following that, we have had another great success whereby the Stop MM program was also launched, this time in November. This is the Iceland Screens, Treats, or Prevents Multiple Myeloma. This is an amazing new project with Dr. Sigurdur Christensen as the principal investigator. In this study, 140,000 people in Iceland over the age of 40 will be studied to see if they have a monoclonal protein present in the serum. And this is to determine if they have MGUS, smoldering myeloma, or active myeloma. And so this is what is called a population-based approach to try to evaluate the presence of not just myeloma, but the earlier precursor forms of the disease for the whole population of Iceland. And this will allow several things to be accomplished. First of all, to see the occurrence of these diseases, but more importantly, to see the way in which they may progress from the MGUS early stage to the smoldering and to the active myeloma stage. By monitoring these patients, the monitoring part, we will be able to determine accurately which tests give us the best reading on which patients will progress, so that we will come out with a prognostic indicator. We will be able to tell ahead of time the patients who are going to progress, and also identify those patients who could benefit from early intervention. And so this is the connection to the Black Swan Research Initiative. By accurately determining which patients are likely to progress, those patients with what is called high-risk smoldering multiple myeloma, we can intervene with very good therapy. And this is what is about to occur with the use of the ASCENT trial. This ASCENT trial will use a combination of carfilzomib, Revlimid, and dexamethasone plus daratumumab, a very, very effective combination to be given to patients with this high-risk smoldering multiple myeloma. This ASCENT trial is ready to be launched across the United States and will be opening in approximately 12 centers across America. And those sites will be identified on the Black Swan website. We have a separate Black Swan web page, and on that page, it will be possible to have all of the updates about this project, and more particularly, the sites where patients could go and see if the trial is open at a center close to them. In addition to this ASCENT trial, there are also starting multiple smaller trials to look at patients who do have residual disease. These are patients who are MRD positive. And so there are several studies looking at new therapies to try to eliminate these resistant MRD cells. We have, along with this, multiple research projects that are going on. Actually, around 30 projects are going on to study different aspects of residual disease, studies of how to get rid of myeloma to achieve MRD negativity, many, many different studies that are going on. And so this has been a tremendous past year, 2016, and during 2017, there will be continuing progress. I think the important thing for patients is that all of the research that has been going on for the last 3 years, which is the current duration of the project, is now turning into a project in which patients can benefit, where these treatments can be applied. We can accurately monitor the patients and see if the best outcomes are being achieved. So We hope for another banner year and one in which patients will truly start to benefit.
Okay, these are the sites where the testing is going on, and you can see it's very global. It's all over. So with the Black Swan Initiative, I think you can see all of the programs he talked about. I stopped myeloma, which is great. And these are the projects as we go along. Get diagnosed early, all the way back to developing guidelines to prevent MGUS, smoldering, and myeloma. And number 4 is to try to get this done in blood testing instead of the bone marrow. So those are the 4 sections of myeloma of the IMF, and that's our story. And we hope it'll give you some hope for a cure in the future, because that's what we're heading for. Thank you for your attention.